Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a new kind of experimental version of Sleep With Me we've never done before. So welcome. These are just bedtime stories from our podcast, Sleep With Me. And to make them feel fresh, these ones are from a couple years ago. So if you're a regular listener, you might get a refresh. And if you're new, these are just bedtime stories from a show called Sleep With Me. They're strange, they're meandering, they're a little bit different. And all this is made possible by listeners like you, regular listeners like you. And so I just want to let you know that's how we're able to put the show out. And so if you are a fan of Sleep With Me, you listen to it on a regular basis, please consider supporting the show. You get ad-free episodes, you get ad-free story-only episodes, tons of other cool stuff at Sleep With Me Plus. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But if you're in a position and you have some money every month, or you say, hey, maybe I don't watch that streaming service, I'd rather give it to a podcast, think about your favorite podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, and support that podcast. If it is Sleep With Me, I consider supporting the show would be great. But if it isn't, or there's a podcast you listen to way more, brings you a lot of value during the day, please support that podcast. Podcasting's going through a different time right now, and your favorite podcast, the one you get the most out of, could use your support the most. So consider supporting it however they request support. Just check it out, like listen to the show or check out their website, or consider supporting Sleep With Me. If Sleep With Me, you say, oh no, Sleep With Me is the one I listen to the most, sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's here. I'm here to keep you company. I'm here to take your mind off of stuff. I'm here to stuff a podcast full of so many filler words. They're going to be, popping out. I'll be spilling spiller words and filler words because I don't know how else to do it. That's one of the things that come free. Extra words. Even the word extra, we threw in a few extras because it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And here's a few of the ways we're able to be here for you for free twice a week. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a quick message here. If you get a lot out of Sleep With Me, if you're a regular listener, you like these new things we're trying out, like the story-only version of the show. If you're new, don't worry about any of this. But if you're a regular listener of Sleep With Me, or you're a regular listener of any podcast, if you have a favorite podcast, and it's not Sleep With Me, that's totally cool. If you have podcasts you listen to way more, or you get way more value out of, I totally understand that. Consider supporting that podcast. Podcasting as an industry is kind of going through a weird phase right now. Direct support from listeners is going to be, it seems like it's going to be the future of most shows. And so consider supporting the podcast you really love. And you could do that. You could find out, you could listen to the show and see how they ask to be supported. Or reach out to them and say, hey, how can I support you? Or if you can't afford, a few dollars a month, you say, hey, how else can I support you? But if Sleep With Me is the one, Sleep With Me Plus is the best way to support Sleep With Me. Sign up for Sleep With Me Plus. Not only you get unbelievably sweet different ways to listen to the show, but it's a huge help for us to be able to do stuff like this. But yeah, think about what your favorite podcast is, and then go ahead and go to their website, or if you already know how they like to be supported, support that show. Thanks and good night. All right, hey everybody, Scoots here, and this is the Tales of Lady Witchbeard, episode 13, where we look back at the series, maybe take a little, like a Saturday morning preview of what's coming up in our next couple series. And I'll just have Antonio introduce things right now, since we're doing this a little bit different. As the friends beyond the binary, the ladies and gentlemen, the boys and girls, it's time for a recap of Tales of Lady Witchbeard. Splish, splash, yeah. All right, thanks, Antonio. So, let's see. So this is the kind of episode, you could listen to this first and then listen to all Lady Witchbeard episodes, or you could listen to this separately. And this is kind of like our look back episodes. I started doing this years ago, like a series wrap up, as long as we have time to do it. One, because I found it's very sleepy for most people. They sleep right through it, which is great. And then two, there are some people in the audience that are creative and want to hear kind of some of the processes behind the show and sleep to it or listen to it optionally to chill out or both. Because usually that's on a re-listen. And, here's a funny thing. If you're listening to that for that reason, I do recommend setting a timer because it is hard to focus on Sleep With Me in general. And just listen to it in 10-minute chunks. Probably 10 minutes is your max. I listen to, like, when I'm doing a really focused listen to the show, yeah, I'm, like, doing it in 15-minute chunks, but I've been doing it for thousands of episodes. Or, excuse me, like 1,000+ episodes. So, a little pro-am tip from Scoots. So, we did season 2 of Lady Witchbeard. This, I believe, was our longest stretch between a season 1 and a season 2. Is possibly one of my, not possibly, it's definitely, Lady Witchbeard is one of my favorite characters to work with. And to think about, especially, this is weird. Lady Witchbeard probably is the character I feel like lives the most life in between the Sleep With Me episodes. As opposed to other characters, she inhabits more of a space of where we're only getting exposed to a segment of her life. Probably, normally her life is even more exciting than it would be on an episode of Sleep With Me. And so, I don't know, so there was a long delay. So what I'll do for this episode is I'll run through kind of the history of Lady Witchbeard. And maybe if I can find it, we'll take a deep dive into the first episode she ever appeared on. And kind of talk about the series and where things went and then see what our time's like and go from there. I guess the first thing I want to address, though, is why... I get a lot, I definitely am not in a position where I can take any episode submission ideas. I put that on our website and I try to let people know that. And that's but even understandably, people say, hey, when's that's not an episode submission idea. It's more like, hey, when can you do a second season or another season, or when are these characters coming back? Because understandably, everybody has their favorite characters, and I'm the same way. When's this series going to have its season 2 or season 3, or when's this movie coming back out with this recurring character, or when's this person putting out their next movie? I don't care if it's if I'm just a fan of theirs. Totally understand that. And Lady Witchbeard is one of those ones where it's I think people stopped asking because the episodes became so far back in the archives, they fell out of the free feed. So there was just Lady Witchbeard super fans. And there was a long gap. I think Lady Witchbeard it wasn't one of the first series we did. Because the first 3 series were, the first 2 ones that stuck were Bessos and After the Glass Slipper. So I don't know if it was the series after those both concluded. So that would have put it in year 2 of the podcast, maybe. Or I don't know. I'd have to look, and maybe we could do that as well. But it was such a long gap because a lot of interesting things. And I may have talked about some of this, so excuse me. And I'll probably be inaccurate. And if you look back at my answers at other times, I'll probably be remembering things in a different way than I remembered them in the past, and I might even be wrong about a lot of facts. That's just the nature of Sleep With Me and my brain and the way it works. I'm very imperfect, and, I remember my memory does not work like a recording device. It's more of an impressions device. But so... The biggest reason for the gap of between seasons of Lady Witchbeard is just there was not a story worthy, that says why. I'm trying to think of the phrasing of the question that I say, but is there a reason to make a season 2 of Lady Witchbeard until a story or a concept comes up? the answer is normally, no, let's just wait. Or what, like if I'm discussing it with myself, it's like, oh, what ideas do you have? Well, I don't know. I just miss her. Okay, well, that's probably not enough to produce 12 new episodes. So let's just wait and see. And because Sleep With Me is independent, I don't have outside pressure to say, okay, when is this new series going to be done? And it's not this isn't a matter of perfectionism, because it's more like it's it's whatever you call that, like where you're saying, okay, when there's enough juice here to push a series forward, then the series will be ready to get pushed forward. So it's not like procrastinating or avoidance or saying I'm waiting for the perfect idea, because it's definitely never a perfect idea. It's more of like, can this concept or idea sustain a series? And in a sense, not is it worthy of being is it going to make great material? Is it worthy of the characters in the story? And again, can we get about 12 hours? Like, is it like sustainable in the sense of like, is there 12 hours of material there? Because that's a lot and a lot of writing. And in order to do that, it's like, okay, there has to be something conceptually. Now, in season 2s or season 3s of a series with Sleep With Me, there is an extra advantage, which was not well, I guess it was in this case, but I wasn't able to lean on it. But maybe I was, of having established a relationship with the characters. That's something I talk about a lot of times. And that does come with extra responsibility. So it doesn't make it any easy to kick off the season. But once you start writing, it's easier to get into a groove because you know the characters a little bit better. Now, it had been a long time since I worked with these characters. And one of the difficulties of season 1, it was that, like Lady Witchbeard was such an amazing character that like a witch who is a pirate. I mean, what more can you ask for, right? Is it like you say, holy cow, that's a dream character. I mean, that's what I mean, in my opinion. I said, wow, like, I can just see any number of amazing people like being Lady Witchbeard or portraying Lady Witchbeard or, creating an animated Lady Witchbeard. Because the idea of a witch who's a pirate is just endlessly fascinating to me. And then Lady Witchbeard herself is a complicated character, but she's also kind of in the similar, I guess she is, I don't know if she's heavily influenced by Star Trek The Next Generation or somebody like Picard, because she is different than Picard. And I haven't seen like a lot of Captain Janeway, so I can't say that she's influenced by Captain Janeway, but I'd say like she's as competent as Picard. Maybe she's a little more Riker. I'm trying to think. I mean, but she's definitely influenced by the competence of the crew of the Enterprise and the command structure of the Enterprise. And she's an incredibly competent character, though she is not constrained in the same ways by like a Federation. So she is different in that sense. And that's kind of one of the cool things I was able to do or that I had fun with this series. But one of the difficulties of that is when you're prepping something like that. In season 1, I had less experience too, but like, you say, oh boy, this is going to be amazing because it's going to be Lady Witchbeard's story, and she's going to take things from, the beginning to the end. And we had a pretty strong concept, which was like the simplest version was Lady Witchbeard heard the Neil Young song about Hernan Cortez, and then she said, okay, like, I don't like this guy. Let's go find him and teach him some manners. And that's very, 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 I don't know. It's still a juicy concept of drives a lot of sleep with me. But in this version, we went to kind of an alternative reality. But we went kind of back in time. I think we definitely weren't in our universe because like things were much more surreal and magical. So it had this magical realism type feel. or that's what I was going for, I guess. But once we got there, it became a lot more, like Germ kind of took over the character that I was playing kind of as myself. And in some sense as a character, the Scooter type character. But there was a lot of, surreal fun stuff that happened, but it wasn't like a straight, it was not even, it was a very meandering plot line and overcomplicated and in a good way, but it wasn't a straight, I mean, it obviously couldn't be because that's not the job of Sleep With Me, but I still thought Lady Witchbeard would carry that series as a character, but instead she ended up being kind of like the B character. And I mean, I guess that's a sense of like, I remember at the time I was very frustrated, and I even was emailing with somebody that wrote comic books for one of the big comic book companies, and they said, I can't, like, really, they were trying to be kind about it, but they said, well, you're lucky that this character, she's making her own decisions, and her decisions to step out of the spotlight. You got to respect that because I got to write characters that they don't, like, I don't get to, like, give them that breathing room. I have to write a character that somebody else that has all these expectations and lack of choice and use those creative constraints. So the characters, like have to behave a certain way or have to fit, certain thing. And here you've got this character and she's just doing, like, she gets to do what she wants. That's a pretty good problem to have. And I think that was early on. So like in the series, and I can remember, I think reading the message, when I was eating my lunch. I don't know if I was on a run, but I remember this is when I worked at the library and I was on my break, in Fremont, California at this lake, Stevenson, I think it's called, which is where I would eat my lunch and take my lunch breaks or go for a run and then eat my lunch at my desk. So I just remember that season. I don't remember much about it because I haven't re-listened to it. And it had some things that, like, if I can recall correctly, that I liked. It was more slapstick. Lady Witchbeard was much, like, because it was like a more in the R-rated, strong PG-13. Like Lady Witchbeard was her temper was much more foul, and she was a little bit harder around the edges. And I was her I wanted to be her sidekick even then. And she was kind of burdened with Germ at the time, now Daw. And so, I don't know. I mean, I had fun with that series. I really liked how it turned out, like looking back at it and seeing how many wild things happened. And also that it was a sleep podcast where Lady Witchbeard was going back or going in time to destroy a conquistador. That's like I mean, like, we can't say anything other than that's so Lady Witchbeard. That's exactly what she would do. So that's when you have a good character. It's like, okay, if Lady Witchbeard did hear that Neil Young song and listened to it and said, wait, are these the lyrics? Who is this guy? Like, that's exactly the choice she would make. Now, that kind of leads into the delay of seasons is when you have a character that is that specific and kind of, I guess, fully formed or pretty strongly formed and has strongly held opinions. You can't really force them to make decisions. Like even as a writer or whatever, you can't say, okay, Lady Witchbeard, I've decided that you're going to do this. Well, okay, she would say, like an actor or actress, okay, what's my motivation? And you'd say, oh boy. And that's exactly the relationship we have in a good sense. I don't know, maybe it's some sort of external projection. But in both series, it was like, okay, leave me, like, basically Lady Witchbeard's like she's withdrawn at the start of a normal adventure with us because of her relationship with me, or before the first time we met, it was something else. But so she needs like a very strong motivation to change her mind from being on a break or saying, okay, I'm done with you, Daw, Germ, and your wild adventures. Now, meanwhile, the whole, like, Lady Witchbeard was existing between the two series because the first series left off, and I think, in very Sleep With Me tradition, I got scattered across multiple universes. I don't know how many series have ended that way. And I guess it's a trope, but it's also it's just one way I like to end series in different ways is, or start them is the scattering across the universe idea for whatever reason. And this one, it was like that was the only way to resolve the trouble at the end of the season. But of course, Lady Witchbeard being tied to me in some sense is like, okay, now I have to go collect Daw. So that was what happened for Lady Witchbeard between season 1 and season 2. And that took a long, long time. And she had left the 13 Seas, her world, to, one, deal with Hernan Cortez, and then two, on another separate adventure, collect pieces of germ scattered across the multiverses or whatever, then needed a break because that probably was exhausting. And, of course, understandably, she didn't want anything to do with me after you rescue someone who won't stop talking, you say, okay, I need a break. So, so Lady Witchbeard is in, okay, so one of the things that would become important and naturally would become important is, so Lady Witchbeard left the world of 13 Seas, had her 2 adventures, and then was also on a break. Meanwhile, the world of the 13 Seas is still existing. Things haven't stopped there. I guess I wasn't aware of some of those facts until I started working on the series again. And so for years now, I've been like, just like everybody else, will Lady Witchbeard have a second season? And sometimes I'll go on walks and think about her or think about it. And then I just say, I don't know, what adventure is really worthy of Lady Witchbeard? And it can be different every time for a different series. It might be that you think of something. I mean, this could have been other ways it played out. Like, I could have thought of something enticing, like a clearly formed adventure or type of opposition that would fit Lady Witchbeard's needs or that would appeal to her, and then said, okay, how about this? I heard this happened. Like, even the way the season played out, if we could have presented her in a different way without the initial concept, and she'd go for it probably. Like we said, there's an ominous plan to gelatinize the 13 Seas by some mysterious figures, one of which we believe is a witch conqueror from another realm or something. She'd say, she'd already be gone. Like, I would have just heard the door close. I'd be like, Lady Witchbeard, where are you? Or we said, geez, the pirate guilds are all closing down. No one knows why. There's something going on. Piracy has been stopped. Or pirates have gone legit. Even that might get her attention. But that's not what I thought of first. That's actually what grew out of the concept, which is the nice thing. Like, those weren't the ideas I had first. Those grew out of another idea. But so it doesn't have to be as simple as a concept. It could be a character. It could be a conflict. Or it could be a what if. What's that? Like, I think there's probably other things it could be. But normally your best place to start is like with a new character. Oh, what are they going to do? And then, that happened. Well, how are we going to how would Lady Witchbeard fix it? But I didn't have any of those ideas that appealed to Lady Witchbeard over the past, 5 years. And at different times I was like, okay, maybe there just won't be a second season of Lady Witchbeard. That's fine. And actually that gives you that actually is freeing in some sense, because say, okay, until there's a really good idea, then I just won't worry about it. And interestingly enough, it kind of happened by accident, like a lot of good things, or popped out of the story swamp. And I don't have an exact memory of this, how this happened. And I don't know if I talked about it already at a different time. That's like accurate portrayal of what happened. But I could tell you that at some point I was thinking of Lady Witchbeard, and maybe I had a couple ideas that I didn't write down, unfortunately, that kind of helped me. But at some point I heard the song Brandy, which I think is by Looking Glass. And I think it was just on a playlist or something, like probably a yacht rock playlist, maybe Brene Brown's yacht rock playlist. And for some reason, and I think I talked about it with Lady Witchbeard, it's like for some reason, something about that song feels like the 70s to me. Like the musically and just the tone, like it feels like a 70s game show or something I would have been watching as a kid on repeats on like a cable channel. And I don't know, nothing to me feels like I didn't really live very much in the 70s as a sentient being. So it's not like I say, oh, well, I grew up in the 70s or I was a teen in the 70s where I had some formative moments. I mean, most of the formative stuff happened to me in the 80s. So while I existed for a time in the 70s, I didn't really experience the 70s. So I don't know what that is, but it's just something about that style of music. And I know there's a lot of other styles of music that evoke the 70s, but for me, I'm saying, and I mean, it's definitely, and maybe it's a 60s song, but I don't know. For me, it clearly is different than 60s classic rock or whatever, even though classic rock was in the 70s. I don't know. So that song, I usually tune into it unless it's bringing up some non-positive feelings for me, which happens at times. But I say, oh boy, I get that 70s groove. A couple other songs do it, like Ride Captain Ride or something is another one. They say, oh boy, I feel like I'm on a 70s game show. I have no idea why that creates that experience for me. And it's more of like a dreamlike experience. It's not like I'm saying I heard the song on a game show. I know it's just a mood, I guess is the best way to put it. So that song came on. And at some point, I don't know what happened first. I said, well, I need one more hit of that Brandy, man. Or I said, wait a second. Never really paid attention to the depth of the song. And, I mean, I knew the lyrics and stuff, but I said, wait a second, this song is, the more you listen to it and you explore the lyrics, you say, one, it's like this love lost song, but then you think that kind of Brandy's like being treated poorly by all these other people, but then they're also like all in love with her. They're all jealous, like, oh, and I don't know, it just has this tale. And actually at first, conceptually, I said, oh, wow, this is interesting. And I guess that's all that matters is that, I mean, I'll talk about where I thought things were going to go, but they never go that way. Obviously, in a good way. But I said, oh boy, this is something. This song has something to be curious about. And I didn't even, it wasn't like I was looking for a song. I thought I didn't think that Lady Witchbeard's next adventure would come through a song again. But I said, holy cow, this song raises more questions than answers, or for me. And that's exactly the kind of thing that you can write 12 episodes about. I say, okay, there's a lot of questions this song raised for me. One, who was this dude? Wait, did he really love the sea more than Brandy, or was he just telling her a tale? What if was she waiting for him to come back? Then that's not was he going to come back to her? I love my lady as the sea or whatever he says to her, I think. So I said, this is interesting. There's a lot of questions here that remain unanswered. I mean, some people might think case closed. It's about, like, the song's about Brandy and her being sad. But I did say to myself, if I was a Lady Witchbeard and listening to the song and then Brandy told me the similar tale, well, what would Brandy look like? And I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. Is she sad? Like, and these are questions, not answers. So this is an important part of the process sometimes for me. Okay, well, would she be sad? Is she mad? Is she defeated? Is she is longing flowing out of her? Has she moved on? Are dudes still bothering her? Okay, she's sworn never to love again. And it's just the kind of that process. Oh boy, like that's a lot of questions getting raised. And so then I'm like, okay, so if Lady Witchbeard's there, like Lady Witchbeard is less asking the questions than saying, which question is Lady Witchbeard asking that she needs to have answered? So then I say, and that I guess is where the catalyst happens, where it's like, okay, we got to make this now. Because I say, okay, like I think Lady Witchbeard, this is not written, so I can't put words in her mouth, but I think, who the heck is this guy? Is he lost? Wow, I really feel for this Brandy. Is this guy lost? Or is he just a jerk? Or is he really in love with the sea? And I got to get to the bottom of this. Like wherever when we were brainstorming, and it was a Lady Witchbeard and I and Brandy together, and we're more in this question place than a real reality place. They say, okay, this is stirring something in Lady Witchbeard that she can no longer be inactive about. That's it. That's what I mean by a catalyst. So then it doesn't mean you don't need the answers at that point. The Lady Witchbeard has been activated. The catalyst has happened. And that probably just that event, like, is enough in this series, maybe not other series, but for a character that is action-based and is kind of, I don't know, that's how she expresses herself for the most part is through her actions, and she's driven to, like, yeah, I guess that catalyst drives her to action. That's enough. So I say, oh boy, okay, we're in it now. And then that's when you start to, like, that came up, I don't know when, but I said, okay. And then I was listening to Brandy, listening to cover songs of Brandy while we were still working on the last series, which I have no idea at this point even what series that was. Was it in a new series? I have no idea because my brain just doesn't work that way, but not important either, other than the fact, I mean, it's sure somebody's feelings are hurt. The star of the last series, whoever it was, wasn't Odder Things, I don't think. Was it Journey into the Land of Tomorrow? That makes sense. So they wouldn't be hurt because they say, we understand, Scoots. It's been a while. And so this is like probably spring of 2020 when this is happening. And we're wrapping up Journey into the Land of Tomorrow. And so then I said, okay, then what happens is you just have these concepts. Maybe you have time to play in it, but more you're just feeling it. And then the recording of Journey in the Land of Tomorrow, whatever, episode 12 or 10, whatever we finished on, it finishes. And then 2 weeks later, you got to be recording Tales of Lady Witchbeard episode 1. So you have 2 weeks to write it, which is, some people it might sound like too much or a lot, but it's like the rhythm of the podcast that works. For me, I don't always love it, but having a deadline and the creative constraint of the deadline helps eliminate procrastination and perfectionism. Not all the time, for sure, but it just works for the show. Knowing 2 weeks, you got to get that done. You got to be recording next Thursday or Friday, Scoots, or 2 Thursdays, whatever. So then we say, okay, well, where did we leave off last time? Okay, she had a whole other adventure. Well, in this sense, the same environment when we met the first time is probably the best place to start the story. Where does the story start? With Lady Witchbeard not wanting anything to do with me, and me longing to be with Lady Witchbeard once again. Like, because if she, like I kind of talked about in the first episode, I think, when I'm pitching her, is like, of course you want to be with, if you have a leader who's a real leader who makes you feel safe and part of something and is competent, like, of course you want to work on the Enterprise if you could. I mean, if that's your thing. Like, so, like, once you've been exposed to someone like that, like it's something you desire, or particularly the character of Daw, which is similar to me, but I'm not a leader seeker really as much as Daw is. But maybe if I came in contact with Lady Witchbeard, I would be. So I said, okay, so Lady Witchbeard is once again reluctant, and we got to introduce the song Brandy to her, which will start the adventure. But then there's still, like I said, wait a second, though. Like, Lady Witchbeard's going to be, like, really resistant. She does not want anything to do with me. And this song does not quite have the immediacy, though. While it's interesting, it didn't feel like it was quite... It has enough juice to make a series about it and create a catalyst in Lady Witchbeard. But I don't know. I felt like there has to be something else, because then I said, okay, I want this to happen in the 13 Seas, not in the witch world and not in our world or an alternative reality. I said, I want this to be, I was hoping it would be a pirate, like I was thinking it would be just a story of piracy. And like Lady Witchbeard would be trying to find the man who loved the sea. And answer that question for Brandy. That's what I conceptually thought, like, we would do. I said, okay, we'll try to answer those questions and probably be straightforward. And we'll do some pirate stuff, and then we'll do some more pirate stuff and some pirate style, and we'll get the answer. Or we won't, but we'll get close. And so when I thought about that, I said, okay, well, what's the 13 Seas like now? And how are we going to have this piracy? I don't know. At some point I stumbled up kind of on this bureaucratic idea. Also as one more motivator, because I thought, like, Lady Witch was just too smart to fall into the trap again of me playing a song and it's stirring an idea in her. And her going for it, like, even if she wanted to, she would be like, fool me once is fine, fool me twice, no chance of that happening with Lady Witchbeard. It's that simple. But so I said, okay, so we need an extra motivator, but maybe it's not personal. And we wanted this to be pirate. We've never seen Lady Witchbeard as a pirate, very like. So then I don't know how this bureaucratic idea came up, but I said, okay, it would make sense if, like, and also, like, what, like, how would, like, me and Lady Witchbeard's idea, I don't know, just ideas to explore. I said, okay, well, maybe Lady Witchbeard is on the outs with the Pirates League. Maybe that would create more conflict later on. And then also I did watch a bunch of old movies, and there's, like, a very... I don't know if you want to say archetypal pirate type, like Earl Flynn. And I said, okay, well, that's not Lady Witchbeard's style. And so how does that fit in? Because, again, if you're playing in archetypes, it just gives you, or familiarity, I know, it's just inspired, like, I don't know. So I said, okay. Or for people Dread Pirate Roberts Wesley from Princess Bride will be the more modern, or not, that's not, I mean, I guess the 80s, 90s version of that you may be familiar with. And then maybe Orlando Bloom, but he's a little more by the rules, less of a rogue. I don't know. I didn't see all those movies. But, I mean, he is swashbuckling, I'd say. So, okay. Where does that leave us? So I said, okay, maybe there's this bureaucracy. Then, because at some point you have to deal with the charismatic pirate. I mean, there's no other way around it if you're dabbling in piracy. Or at least I felt that way. So I said, okay, well, we have to come across this charismatic pirate or swashbuckling style, swinging from the ramparts. So I don't know. As we started out the season, those were things. I said, okay, maybe Lady Witchbeard needs an extra motivator to get back into the world of piracy and take me along. Like, maybe she needs some extra desperation is what it turns out. Because, again, I don't think you would take, if you were a witch pirate, no offense to me or Daw, but I already kind of created enough problems for Lady Witchbeard. She doesn't know that she's not better. Like, on a conscious level and on a common sense level, she'd be like, well, I'm better off without Daw. And can't have the story without Daw, the narrator. So that's a problem that needed to be solved. So again, it's like, okay, but if she has some extra, if she's acting on her instinct to act when she hears about an adventure that appeals to her, but she's also has an extra motivation that kind of puts her in a tough spot, then she kind of might need me more. And then it makes the timing it makes more sense. I don't know. It just kind of grew. That's where I started building. I said, okay, this pushes us into the world of 13 Seas in the first episode. And then it keeps us moving. Then it gives us kind of because again, people don't believe this, and but you cannot have any story, in my opinion, but definitely even a Sleep With Me story without layers of conflict, like an antagonism, and that makes it fun to make episodes of Sleep With Me. But without an episode, without any conflict or antagonism, the episodes, there's no motion. Like, the episodes, even though they're sleepy, you can't meander without moving forward. Like, you can't meander without moving, right? Even if you're going backwards, you need some sort of momentum. And even if you have a great character, if there's no sort of antagonism or purpose or conflict, even if there's a purpose, then they're just well, why would they meander if they know the goal? Or I don't know. It just makes a better story, but it also makes the story is almost impossible to tell for me in a concise way. I mean, in a concise way within the Sleep With Me sandbox without having some sort of I just can't. I don't know. It's the only way to form it for me. It's kind of like part of the language or something. I don't know how to describe it. And it's also gives you, like, you're building a train, right? And it's like, okay, so it's like the train's moving. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, it's just part of my process, I guess. So I said, okay, so now we have a couple motivations that are moving, and then we're formulating. And I said, okay, this is better than just having this, one giant piece of antagonism, because we don't know what it is. We're trying to figure that out as Lady Witchbeard and Daw. So what are the antagonisms or conflicts? Well, we don't know We got to find Brandy and get to the bottom of it. But Lady Witchbeard also has lost her clearance as a pirate, and she's expected to be the apprentice of this guy, Don Dankle. Okay, will Don Dankle be the antagonist or not? Well, he's going to be a source of antagonism. But I felt like, for me, sometimes stuff can be on the nose or like whatever as expected, but I was like, oh, like, and I think a character like that type of Don Dankle swashbuckling pirate that's not good could be a great character. But for this series, I said, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. At first, I kind of was but this could be. I said, who is this Don Dankle? He's incredibly, swashbuckling and dashing. I don't know if Lady Witchbeard will like that, but as much as I wanted those two not to get along, and I thought it'd be good for the story, or it might drive us to this next, drive us towards the man who loved the sea and Brandy. It just ended up, as we uncovered stuff, that wasn't what we were finding in the story swamp as we dug into the muck below. But it did carry us into episode 2 and 3. I said, okay, and it makes perfect sense. The pirates killed in the 13 Seas has very strict rules. Lady Witchbeard has not been paying her dues or, renewing her certifications. And so by their rules, she's no longer a full-fledged pirate. She's an apprentice, and she has to go back and work with Don Dankle, who is a by-the-bookish, full-fledged pirate. And then she could regain her rights to piracy. And would Lady Witchbeard be down for that? Oh, no. And I thought also be a little bit of character building for Lady Witchbeard. That's she has to kind of relearn these skills. We didn't really have time to play in that too much. And maybe that, will this story be an exploration of her? Does she have some sort of pirate inadequacy? Which, I mean, in some sense, that's how the payoff of the series is, but in a much different, unexpected way. But so those were, again, okay, that's carrying the story forward for me and exploring some new ground, or, I don't know, it felt good. So I said, okay, so this is why Lady Witchbeard is returning to the 13 Seas. Why the 13 Seas? Oh, this is this universal myth. What if, I don't know, I said, because some of the stuff about the necklace in the song, I said, okay, that's very specific thing to mention in a song, gold of chain from the north of Spain or whatever. And I said, okay, that's something. And then, so I said, maybe that's a Lady Witch. Well, that reminds me, it's not like she'd never heard the song before. Because otherwise it's Brandy's from this world. I mean, I thought about that for a little while, but I said, okay, there's no way we could set it in 2020, 2021, it just wouldn't be as fun. And I don't know, 13 Seas is something I always wanted. I guess that was a qualifier for the season, or something on my checklist. Is does this take place in the 13 Seas? But I don't know. So I don't know. Then saying, it was a little bit of a cheat, I guess, to say, oh, yeah, I know this song from the 13 Seas, too. Let's look into it. Also, let's go. Oh, why? Well, I want to go on this adventure. Lady Witcher's not totally honest. I lost all my, supposed to, let's go now, as opposed to let's go later. Because otherwise, it's well, this song's old. Why do we need to go now? So then we go. And I'm not sure of the series of events again, because like I said, it's episodically modular, but we get to that world. And sometimes, I talk about Sleep With Me, trying to keep it as contained as I can as far as characters. And so we definitely hit some hurdles with that, because we came across Brandy, because he definitely wanted to do a scene with Brandy, finding Brandy, and a kind of procedural in the sense of let's go through this song and find Brandy. And at first I thought that would carry, like, maybe that's it. Like I thought maybe the whole season would be us going to different ports to find Brandy, trying to stay, like, dealing with Don Dankel, and then trying to find the man who loves the sea. So I think at the time, that's kind of how I thought things would unfold. But apparently it didn't. Like, I definitely wanted to have a scene with Lady Witchbeard kind of teaching some of the men that aren't appreciative of Brandy's hard work a lesson. So that was kind of gratuitous in some sense, because I said Lady Witchbeard would not like this behavior of saying, oh, why don't you be my husband or whatever. But then once we discover Brandy, I was like, okay, I wasn't comfortable with Brandy as like someone that needed to be rescued. Like I said, okay, that's not feeling that as like a part of the story. Like, oh, our job is to kind of help, or someone trying to get back, while those kind of things are part of the story, like longing and vengeance or whatever. Again, they didn't start pulling the string. So I said, okay, well, that's unfortunate. I thought it would. But again, that's not appealing to Lady Witchbeard. She wants to look into this. But I don't know. In a sense, we got distracted because there was another story to be told. It's really that simple. It takes 2 or 3 episodes to find that out. So then it was like Don Dankel's trying to track Lady Witchbeard down. Is Don Dankel going to catch us? What would happen then? Okay, well, maybe that is inevitable, because I kind of watched some movies. I said, okay, well, this is what happened in this movie. Well, it probably happened a little bit different. How could it happen a little bit differently? And then it's like, okay, well, what if Lady Witchbeard ends up being Don Dankel's apprentice? And I said, okay, that wouldn't, like, you can't hang out. Like I said, okay, how are we going to do this creatively? Because you can't force, even for 3 or 4 episodes. At first I said, okay, I don't think this is going to work with Lady Witchbeard just being passive. I don't know, like having an onboard contained ship kind of like thing where it's like, oh, Lady Witch, like Don Dankel's like, I don't know, it just wasn't feeling it again. And Don Dankel as a character was troublesome in a good way, because he was like, okay, well, I don't want to be a dominant boss. I just want to be, again, in this theme of competence in some sense. He said, I'm not looking, Lady Witchbeard is supposed to be my apprentice. I'm not here to demean her. I'm here to treat her with dignity and respect, but also by the rules, and, you know, to build her up and get her back as a full-fledged pirate, but by the rules. So then I said, oh, boy, we got some creative challenges here. So we have Brandy, and Brandy, the song is still motivating Lady Witchbeard, but Brandy doesn't seem to be catalyzing anything, and I don't want to force that on her, because she's saying, no, I'm not a catalyst right now. But there is something mysterious about me. So, I mean, normally in another story, you'd have to figure this out, or you'd figure it out in a series of drafts, and you say, but meanwhile, I'm figuring out while I'm building the train, right? But that's a good thing for Sleep With Me, because you say, okay, if the question doesn't want to be answered now, then part of the story is exploring and finding the answer. Okay, Brandy's mysterious. I don't get her motivations. Okay, let's say yes to that. Don Dankel does not want to be the center of the story as an antagonist of Lady Witchbeard. Okay, Well, that's interesting choice you're making, Don Dankel. It's not ideal for me as a storyteller, but I'll listen to you. Like, it's like almost like Don Dankel this is not like a direct link, but like maybe it's in the back of my mind. I don't know. Like when Riker, everybody's like, when are you going to be in command of your own ship? When are you going to be in command of your own ship? And he's like, geez, I'm on my own timeline. Like, or like this is, like it's none of your business, basically. Don Danko was saying to me, it's none of your business. I said, why aren't you going to be a jerk? Or why aren't you going to cause some trouble that Lady Witchbeard has to react to in a direct way? I said, none of your business. I'm running the ship. I'm a member of the guild. I'm just competent. None of your business. Anything else? I said, yeah, but I created you. Too late now. So then I said, okay, all right, well, where do we build from here? And I don't know where the other ideas came from that ended up being the foundation for the story that we did tell. But it was like, again, like investigating a little bit of a mystery, which worked in these constraints that the characters were giving me. Lady Witchbeard and I found ourselves under Don Danko. Don Danko was not going to be moving the story forward, but a part of the story. And Brandy at the time was saying, well, I'm just a mystery, and I'm a passive mystery at this point, but there is something more to me. So I said, okay, but Don Danko didn't say there's something more to me. So I guess that's like, you might say, well, no, those characters were saying two different things. Brandy was saying, just wait, yeah, my motivations aren't going to be clear to you, which in some storytelling you might say, I don't know, there's something to write about and explore. Like, so many people are used to consuming created things. So this is more part of the process for me. So then I say, okay. So then I said, okay, well, this is what we have here to work with. And I don't really know where it came from, to be honest. But I said, okay, wait a second. The leap did come that, and Brandy would be a part of it, but I still wasn't sure if she would be a part of it on whose side. But I said, okay, what would put the man who loves the sea under, like, what would be the greatest source of antagonism? So if Lady Witchbeard is investigating the man who loved the sea and Brandy, trying to find him, like that, she would use the necklace. She would find Brandy, then she would find the necklace, or do those things. So that's how Lady Witchbeard would behave. But if we still needed a source of antagonism, and we've struck out Brandy, not a current active source of antagonism. Don Danko, not going to be a long-term source of antagonism. Maybe conflict because he's, an obstacle, but he's not going to, the story's not going to turn on his decisions. He's not going to be in opposition. He might be in conflict with Lady Witchbeard, but he's, you know what I mean? So I said, okay, well, if Lady Witchbeard's, the purpose of this season is to tell the story of Lady Witchbeard and finding the man who loves the sea and investigating that. Okay, well, we have our investigation now. You do have some short-term conflict. Don Danko's in the way of that investigation because we need to find north of Spain. So that's kind of where you say, okay. But at the same time, then you say the growing antagonism of the season. So there's your episodically antagonism is like procedural, like a couple episodes of procedural. But then also then the good thing is when you don't have... You have to get more creative. You say, okay, well, what would be the worst thing that could happen to the man who loves the sea? The sea ceases to exist. Oh, what would be the worst thing that could happen to Lady Witchbeard if she's a witch pirate in the 13 seas? The seas would cease to exist. And then you actually build more. Oh, wait, Don Danko wouldn't like that either. And then you say, okay, well, how would you cease the seas to exist and why? And then the rest of the season just grows out of that. Oh, boy, well, what if you made the sea into Jell-O? That wouldn't be good for anybody. why would you who would make the sea into Jell-O? Why would they do that? And how would we one, realize that, and then how would we stop them? So that's where you start to get motivation of, you know what I mean? That carries us through to the end, and that made it fun. And then it also gave us my favorite thing, I think, about the series was saying that, giving Lady Witchbeard a chance to explore, to surrender and to not have competence, to be like, wait a second, I'm outmatched here. What do I do in a case where I'm outmatched, but I still, and that's what great movies do, or great stories, of these, I mean, they do them in a much different way, but you say, okay, how do you say, if the stakes are the sea, and your opposition is stronger than you, and your best plan, how would Lady Witchbeard react to that, if that's the truth? And then she, so that was definitely my favorite part, from an emotional connection to a character standpoint. And as a human being, I guess, to think about Lady Witchbeard as a real living and breathing being is well, this is a gigantic opportunity for growth, and heroism, and setting an example of what heroism and leadership really is saying, how do I behave if I need to do what's best for everybody? It's impossible from a storytelling standpoint. It's always when you're reaching the top of the story or whatever, you say, okay, saving, if this is the stakes, and saving, doing what it takes to save the stakes is impossible. How does the character go beyond that, And Lady Witchbeard's limitation is almost her effectiveness and her competence. That's her weakest point that they've discovered. And they hope to prey on that. And then that's how then that leads to the final episode. And then, who knows what comes out of that. We did take a lot of time, so we didn't get to look into the old Lady Witchbeard, but you can find that. I think we ran it as a repeat once, and patrons can find it for sure. And then, soon I'll be working on the new series. So we have a Holiday 3 which is based on one popular episode from the holidays last year. And then we'll start a new series that'll run 12 or 13 episodes in the winter and the spring of 2022 that I'm excited about. It'll be a new series. So I'm really pumped. And that's it. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody. All right, I want to thank everybody who became a patron recently. I want to thank Julie, Dominique, and Jennifer. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Jeff, Anna, and Linda. Thanks, and good night. Megan, Graham, and Kelsey. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Alex, Davis, and Kirst. Thanks, and good night. Joe, Sam, and Virginia. Thanks, and good night. Sharon, Zach, and Anna. Thanks, and good night. Nicole, Tara, and Samantha. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Jeffrey, AJ, and Althea. Thanks, and good night. Laura, Alexandra, and Michael. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Nathan, Todd, and Lawrence. Thanks, and good night. Rebecca, Becca, and Laura. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Ariel, Tanya, and Levi. Thanks, and good night. And Lisa, Lamb, and Jennifer. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the show. Sleep With Me exists as a free podcast because the people that support the show directly are supporter sponsors. We grow by people just spreading the word about the show. And by the time you hear this, we might be trying some new stuff out here at the end of the show, some sleepy sponsor stuff. Thanks, and good night. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots with a tuck you in message here for our bedtime story podcast. We're trying out, and I kind of said this, free way to support Sleep With Me and bedtime stories from Sleep With Me is join our referral program, sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer, REFER. You You get rewarded for introducing people to the free version of Sleep With Me, including access to Sleep With Me Plus. But most of all, just think about what your favorite podcast is or one of your favorite podcasts, and then support that podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, but just to support your favorite podcast because they could use your support right now. And if you decide, Sleep With Me is actually my favorite podcast, well, wow, blushing, seriously, even though it's imaginary here in this context, and support it at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, or listen to a show you love and see how they want to be supported. Thanks.